Welcome, guys, to the Duel Links Entertainment YouTube channel. It's your boy Kamel, and I am joined by DLE Hero XGP. What's up, man?
Yo!
And our special guest, Nightfox15. He's a fellow Duel Links Twitch streamer, and he is here to talk about Dragunities with us. What's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, nice to hear from you guys. And we're here to talk about Dragunities today. Dragunities, for me, it's one of my personal favorites. I'm a big fan of the deck. I played in the TCG a little casually. I like it. But Duel Links, I have not really been able to find a sweet spot for the deck to really pull me in. So that's why I've got Nightfox15 here. He topped in a recent battle phase, got top 8 with Dragunity. And whenever Dragunity gets results, that's always huge. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the deck and how you play it.
As far as the deck goes, it's pretty standard. Unfortunately, it's a deck that you're gonna have to spend money on because it's an EX structure deck. There's no way in and out or around it. No Senatus, there's no deck. Koss is the only thing that made this deck viable.
Right, so
and as soon as they released Koss, this deck instantly, to me, became one of my favorites.
Right, so just for reference, Dragunities Senatus is the level 4 SR. You see the first one, and Dragunity Koss is the UR. Do you know what box that's from off the top of your head?
Yeah, I believe that Koss comes out of the recent box that was the Blue Eyes box and
yes, the Judgment
Gladiator
Force
box.
Judgment Force, the main box.
Judgment Force. I farmed that specifically for Koss, and it was well worth it for me. Dragunities is easily a high competitive deck. You just don't see a lot of representation for it.
Okay. So what do you think is holding back Dragunities from... okay, so we should go over the overview first. So how do all the Dragunity cards interact with each other in the deck?
So that's going to be easy. For the most part, all the Dragunity cards work on a similar format. In the instance of Dragunity Senatus, what you're trying to do is have a Dragunity in the hand, discard it so you can pull a tuner from your deck to start your combo. This deck is combo based. It's essentially like the new Mayakashis that came out in the sense that they climb the ladder to get to their boss monster. The only difference is the boss monster for Dragunities doesn't suck. It's actually good. Where in the new Mayakashis, the boss monster is useless. His effect is only in the grave, and that's if he's brought back from the grave.
Right.
So Senatus is the staple card for a combo to start. The alternative combo starter is having a Koss in hand and a Mistletoe in hand with him. That will start the ladder as well. If you are running Ducks, which you should, the only time Ducks can start the combo for you is one of two ways. You either already have a Koss in the grave, or you have Dragunity Divine Lance. Now Lance lets you also start the combo with Senatus. You can either discard the Lance to start Senatus' combo, or if you're feeling spicy, you can put Lance on Senatus, equip it, and start the combo that way, because Lance will pull a tuner from the deck.
Right, and just for clarification, we're talking about Dragunity Divine Lance. That is the rare equip spell that you see, and it's pretty crazy. You get your Dragunity becomes unaffected by trap cards, as well as you get to equip a tuner, which is how you start off all your Dragunity combos.
Correct. I'll refer to it as Divine Lance here for any further non-confusion situations, because I do forget this deck does tech in a Forbidden Lance.
Right.
So Divine Lance is a good way to start the combo, and you basically start the combo by going into a Bircha using Koss, because Koss's effect lets you tune him either as a level 2 or a level 4.
Right.
So if you're using Senatus or Ducks, Koss becomes a 4 to get you Bircha. If you're using Mistletoe, Koss just stays a 2. and you'll start in that way. You can actually skip the ladder. If you're using Mistletoe, it lets you skip the ladder. You can go right into Ascalon. The only downside to that is you have less fodder in the grave to activate the boss monster Ascalon's effect. So you're basically risking and hoping you only have one monster to banish, because the second monster you're going to banish is going to cost you your costs.
Right.
And you need him in the graveyard still for follow-ups with ducks, or if you go into Bircha in case your Ascalon dies.
Yeah, so let's go into the extra deck a little bit. You named a couple cards. Dragunity Knight Barcha, which is the level 8 rare. This is going to be your main synchro starter when you're starting off with Senatus and Kus. Kaus, or however you pronounce it, becomes level 4 when with the Senatus that gets you to 8. And then from there you use Barcha's effect to equip the Kaus from the grave, and then that gets you to your Ascalon. Or like Nightfox said, you can use the Mistletoe to do the same and get out your Ascalon. And can you tell us about Ascalon's effect?
Yeah, Ascalon's effect is very simple. You can banish one Dragunity monster from your graveyard, then target, that's important, it does target, one monster on your opponent controls and banish it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the main way you clear your opponent's field. You can target a face-down monster that is set, you can target a monster that's in attack position and defense position, it doesn't matter as long as the monster is targetable. Ascalon's other effect, which is what makes this deck actually even better, is that in case he dies, whether he is destroyed, but only by an opponent's card effect, you're allowed to special summon another Dragunity synchro from your extra deck.
Mm-hmm.
So your choice in that matter is usually going to be a Barcha if you're trying to follow up. He's the level 8 tuner that you use to climb the ladder with. Or, depending on the situation that your opponent has, you might end up having to go into a Gay Bulge. Because
right,
to jump from Ascalon, who is the boss monster of this deck, Gay Bulge is what I like to consider the surprise Dragunity
right, a level 6
boss monster, because a lot of people do forget that he does actually in fact have an effect and not just have 2,000 attack. He is also a level 6.
Right.
So, for instance, let's say your Ascalon does die, you decide to go into Gay Bulge. Your first Ascalon was brought on the field by a Senatus. You did the climb, you lost a Bircha, turned Bircha, and then made him into an Ascalon. So now you have a Senatus in the grave. That is when Gay Bulge's effect can use the Senatus to banish it from the graveyard and gain his attack points to his own. So it effectively becomes a 3,800 monster, which is great for Switcheroos, great for Blackwings, and pretty much anything else.
Yeah,
if
really
they
just
swing into him, they have to make sure they're not going to swing into him with either a Senatus or Ducks in your grave, because he will be boosted.
right. Yeah, that's a huge effect. You know, getting over huge problem monsters like Invoke Cocytus and Switcheroo Sensaga, like you mentioned. That's a really powerful option for the deck to have. So we have some tech choices, but I think it's better for us to go over the techs as we review the deck list. So this deck,
Yeah, real quick.
yeah, what's up?
Yeah, real quick. Let me just say this just to sum up the overview.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at this deck, every single time I play it, no matter which version I play of this deck, each version has something I like to call a win condition.
Mm-hmm.
This deck is very good in that sense. No matter what version you play, you can always have a situation where either you're going first or second, but you have a win condition. So the simple win condition, I'll give you simple 4 cards that I consider a win condition going second.
Okay.
If you're going second, to me, a win condition is either a Senatus in the hand with either a Kos, a Dux, or a Mistletoe. So that's going to be 2 cards. You can your second card can either be Kos, Dux, or Mistletoe. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Your first card's Senatus. Your third card is Hatrunade or Cosmic Cyclone. Either one of those, preferably you'd want to see a Hatrunade. If you're up against Dark Magicians, you want to see a Cosmic sometimes more than a Hatronade. And then the third card you need to consider that a win condition hand is a Dragunity Divine Lance. So a simple win condition hand would be a Senatus, a Kos, a Dux, or a Missile Team with a Hatronade or a Cosmic, and then a Divine Lance. If you open up like that going second...
Oh yeah, that hand just has...
That's 4. That's a broken hand.
Yeah, that's
a win condition. There's also other win conditions. Another win condition going first would be a Kos. You must have a Kos in your hand. Then you must have a Missile Team in your hand. Your other 2 cards, if you're going first, do not matter. To me, a win condition going first is a Kos, a Missile Team, maybe a Hatronade or a Cosmic Cyclone, and ideally your 4th card going first would be a Dux for follow-up. So your Dux is usually only used for fodder for the Senatus or a follow-up. So let's say another win condition hand is Kos, Dux, Missile Team, and then either a Hatronade, a Cosmic Cyclone, or a Divine Lance. Doesn't matter. You can take any of those 3 in, or any of the other techs that we'll be talking about later. But this is the core, what I consider the core deck as it is in the format now.
Okay, so that's... No, I was just going to say, so that's the deck we have on screen right now?
The one that we have number 1 on the screen right now would be the Destiny Draw version, correct?
Yes, Destiny Draw. Yep.
Yes.
With 2
so
lances,
in that version, instead you will not see a Cosmic Cyclone. What you will see is a Lance or a Chalice. In a win condition hand for that one, instead of a Hatronade, you can also get a Lance. So your win condition for the second hand example would be Kos, Dux, Missile Team, either a Chalice, a Lance, or a Hatronade.
Okay.
That's a turn 1, in my opinion, a win condition.
Right, yeah.
That would be a turn 2 win condition.
Yeah, and you're going to start to notice a trend with a deck like Dragunities. It's imperative that you have something to counter back row at all times when you are looking at setting up a play. Dragunities is a OTK style deck. So to back up OTK decks, you do need your ways to deal with back row in every sense. So Hatronade and Forbidden Lance are very good at that because they stop your monster from being affected by back row for the rest of the turn. You either get rid of the back row or your monster's unaffected.
Yes.
So yeah.
So the Destiny Draw version is the first version I built after the Grit nerf. Right. In my opinion, the Grit nerf was something that really hurt the deck more than I thought it actually would. I thought the deck could work with something else, and it does, but Grit for sure does help against those pesky Cyber Dragons. Now, the deck we're looking at right now, we'll move into the tech cards if that's okay with you.
No problem. Let's do the techs as we do the decks. So let's discuss the techs in this deck, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Perfect. So the tech cards in this deck, what I would consider to be the tech cards in this deck, are the 2 Forbidden Lances and the 2 Forbidden Chalices. Now, you could make an argument for Hatronade being a tech card. I think that it is a core part of this deck. If you do not have it, it's going to be a harder climb. So, for instance, the way I view Forbidden Lance, I view it as a back row stopper in the sense that if I summon, for instance, my Senatus, and they try to floodgate it, my Forbidden Lance would prevent that floodgate.
Exactly. That's a key function of it.
And then I can start my climb on the ladder, the Synchro ladder, with my Senatus. Now, the way I look at Chalice, the only reason Chalice is considered a tech card in this is I consider it to be the poor man's Fiendish Chains. In this sense that it stops a monster's effect like Fiendish Chains does. However, it does it for 1 turn, and they happen to gain 400 attack points.
And
not a big deal.
Something to include about Forbidden Chalice is that Fiendish Chain will only negate the monster's effect as long as it is on the field, but Chalice will negate that monster's effect for the rest of the turn. So an acute distinction between them when you're choosing a tech card. Maybe you don't have Fiendish Chain, that's one of the benefits of Chalice.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you're looking for Chalice replacements, Fiendish Chains would be one.
Yep.
I personally also
Or vice
think,
versa.
right, vice versa. I also think that you could tech in Chalice's place a Chain of Disappearance, because
Okay.
it stops the main monster that you're really trying to stop with Chalice, and that's Invoker or Core. Prevent the Core search for Cyber Dragons, and prevent the Invocation search for Invoker. Now, the only downside to Chain Disappearance is it does not work against Dark Magicians.
Yeah.
It will not stop a Rod search.
Yeah, so
Unlike
that's
Chalice,
that's more of like a. I feel like that's more of a side deck type of thing, you know.
yeah, you can run Chain of Disappearance can be run as a side deck, but I'm saying if you don't have a Chalice or if you don't have a Fiendish Chains and you're looking for something that kind of gets the job done in that sense, that would be a Chain Disappearance. It's
All right.
close. It's not perfect, but it's close.
Okay, so let's move on to the next deck that we have, and that is going to be the version with the Switcheroo deck with 3 Cosmic Cyclone in it.
Right. So this deck evolved from a point battle room that I'd witnessed in a tournament it's a point battle room. So I witnessed this in a point battle room, and it did really well. It actually ended up getting first place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Switcheroo is the skill that you're using for this, because, again, the grit was nerfed. So this version is essentially the same as the version we just saw, but you are replacing a few of the cards. For instance, in the last version, Missile Team at 3 did create some situations where you would brick, so it wasn't helpful. If Missile Team doesn't have a monster on the field that he can essentially special summon himself with, it becomes difficult to get him on the field. So with Dragunities, you do run into a situation where you either have monsters or you don't have monsters on your field. One or the other, usually no in between. And you just need one with Missile Team. So I was running into situations where I thought 3 would be too bricky, and I think now that I've played a few versions with the 2, I think 2 is the perfect number for Dragunities going forward. I don't think I would go back to 3 at any point. It would be difficult to convince me otherwise. So the overview for this deck is the same. You're looking at a situation where you're going to climb the ladder, and you do have win condition hands, again with this one, which are pretty much similar. The only difference is we're now running into the win condition back row stopper being either a Cosmic or a Hatronade.
Mm-hmm.
With this deck, Switcheroo being your skill, you will run into situations where you might open up, which I witnessed myself last night, with a Cosmic Cyclone, a Hatronade, either a Lance, a Forbidden Lance, or a Chalice,
Right.
or even a Divine Lance.
Yeah, we're running a
Any
lot
of those-
more back row removal or back row
Correct.
shots.
You have one more extra, you have more back row here than you do monster. Well, they're even, they're 50-50. But in the previous version, you just had one more monster than you did spells. So you were more or less going to draw a monster before you drew a spell. So the downside of that is, it looks terrible, but with Switcheroo, if you're going first and you open up with a hand like that, you don't have grip to rely on. You have 2 options. If you don't know what your opponent is playing, you can just pass and hope for the best. Or, if you do know what your opponent's playing, and you do know what's coming, you can play the risky move of using Cosmic Cyclone on one of your own spell cards, which in turn 1
Yeah, that's a
would
desperate
still
play.
trigger Switcheroo.
Yeah, that's a desperate play if you brick.
Yes. So you're basically running into a situation where you know what you're up against, you know you're going to go, it's a deck that goes, if they go second, say Blackwings, they're going to win. So let's say you know you're going up against Blackwings, that's going to be your desperate play because you know you're going to be hosed anyway turn 2, but with this move, you at least have a fighting chance of ripping into something that you could use, especially if you have a Divine Lance as one of your spell cards, and you have a Hatronade. You drop the Hatronade, you Cosmic your own Tronade. Let's say you rip into a Lovely Ducks.
Yeah, that's going to change the game for you.
Instantly you can now start the climb, and you have an Ascalon, turn 1, and here's the thing. When I did your guys' tournament, I did hear I did get featured a few times, and the commentators for both my matches, for some odd reason, questioned my play of Ascalon always, anytime I summon them, going first in defense. He has 3,200 defense, 3,300 attack.
That's fat, dude. 3,200. Not much is going to over that.
You're not going to lose anything playing him in defense. You're actually risking more playing him in attack position. With all the people running Neos now and Fox in the main deck, you just lost.
Yeah.
Or even Blackwings, you just got cut in half. Now you're taking unnecessary damage that you need either to save for using a Cosmic Cyclone, or, you know, you could argue, I need that hit so I can activate my Switcheroo, but why force the Switcheroo early when you don't need it?
Right. Okay.
So, in my opinion, if you're going to drop an Ascalon, play him in defense. The only time I ever saw an Ascalon play in attack position that benefited the person playing Dragunities was when I was playing Cyber Dragons, and I was fighting against a Dragunity player, and they went first, and they played their Ascalon in attack position.
Mm-hmm.
That caused a problem for me because I had no monster. I had a monster that could get over 32, but I didn't have a monster that could get over 33. I put my brain together, I figured it out, and I was able to, you know, come back from that anyway. But that was the one time that I was like, man, I wish you played him in defense. Right. So I find it more necessary to play him in defense than in attack for the most part.
All right, so
and this deck is pretty much the same. Again, we're only running the Switcheroo tech.
Right. Yeah.
And in my experience, the last few times I ran this deck earlier today on the ladder, I played it last night in the tournament. Switcheroo, I don't know, I don't have any evidence for this, but anytime I switcherooed, I usually drew the same card I just put back in my deck.
Yeah, that's a common problem with Switcheroo. Sometimes it betrays you. But yeah, okay, so that's a great argument for the Switcheroo version. So let's move on to the third list we have, and this is with 3 Cyclone, 2 Trunade, and 2 Forbidden Chalice. So we already went over the cards, so I guess you can just talk about the about why you chose that number for the back row.
So you change the proportions in this deck. It kind of changes it drastically, but it also doesn't. What you end up doing in the previous version is, in this version you have 5 spell cards that can stop a back row. In the previous version you had 6, and I consider stopping a back row in the sense of whether you can prevent a back row or you can get rid of a back row or send it back to the hand. That's what I'm referring to. So with the Cosmic Cyclone and the 2 Trunades you have 5. In the previous version you had the Forbidden Lance, which bumped it to 6. So I found myself needing a Chalice a little more than I needed the Lance because I'm already running 5 other cards that are similar to Chalice. They're not exactly the same, but they're similar.
Right.
So I teched an extra Chalice, and I ran this in the tournament yesterday. This exact deck got me a 50% win rate, and it also got me a bunch of bricks. It got me a 50% win rate, but it also provided me with a bunch of bricks. Now, the bricks in this situation, I tried to remedy with the Cosmic Cyclone and using the Switcheroo to my advantage, but like I had said, I got betrayed 2 times yesterday by switchering in the exact same card I just sent into my deck.
Yeah, that's the problem I have with a lot of the larger back row control decks, is that when you do try to account for your weakness to back row, when you do start to play a lot of back row cards, you know, it does just end up ruining your consistency as an OTK deck.
Correct. So you do run into a situation where you do end up not seeing as much of an OTK situation, or you see of a bigger brick hand. But this deck has just as much of a win condition as any of the other decks. If you pull, the way I look at it is it's similar. You can relate this to a Dark Magician deck. The only difference is you have less search power. The Dark Magician deck has 3 cards, 3-card combo. The way I look at this deck is it essentially also has a 3-card combo, but it's a little bit more malleable. So your 3-card combo with Dark Magician is pretty standard. You need your circle, you need your trap card, navigation, and you need a Dark Magician in the hand. And what helps with that is Rod helps you search, right? We all know the Dark Magician deck. Well, in this situation with Dragunities, it's similar. The Rod I can compare to, in my personal experience, is what I consider the Rod, quote-unquote, is the Senatus. Mm-hmm. So the Senatus, to me, I consider the Rod because it pulls a card from my deck, which is the Tuner. But it will only do so with a cost, which is discarding a Dragunity monster, or the cost of using Divine Lance, equipping it, pulling another tuner from from the deck as well. So you can actually also look as Divine Lance is also the search card for this deck in a similar situation. Because if you whip into a Dux, you have a Divine Lance, you essentially have a situation where you can climb the ladder and you can OTK. Now, the other third card that I would say, like Dark Magician, they have the Dark Magician in the hand, the Rod. What I would consider the Dark Magician in this situation would personally probably be a back row removal card. So
Yeah,
we were talking
another
Hate
crucial
Grenade,
card.
yes, a Hate Grenade, a Cosmic Cyclone, a Forbidden Lance. You can even use a Night Beam or a Galaxy Cyclone if you have them. Just something to get rid of some of the back row, or stop a back row. So there's your quote-unquote Dark Magician. And then the third part is the Trap card, and the Trap card to me, that one's more malleable. Because if you have a missile team, you can consider him quote-unquote the Trap card, but he only works he only works with the costs.
Right, yeah, for the simple
tuner.
guys.
Yeah, that'll start the engine with only a 2-card combo rather than what you need a 3-card combo for.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, this does have a 3-card combo. The 3-card combo would be a monster, or actually it'd be 2 monsters. That could be either a Kos, or a Sematus, or a
Right.
Dux. As long as you have a Sematus and a Kos or a Dux.
And then
That's
back row
2.
removal.
Yep, and then 3 is the back row removal. So that's how I look at
Okay.
this deck, is the through deck structure. If you don't have the Sematus, what you have is now you have a Dux, and now you're looking at a Divine Lance situation and a back row removal. Boom, 3-card combo.
Yeah, once again.
You don't have that? Another 3-card combo. Back row removal is the constant here. That's your circle, quote unquote. The circle would be your back row removal. So, the other 3-card combo would be the Kos and the missile team. Boom, 3-card combo. You can climb the ladder, you can get your boss monster out, you can start banishing whatever, first, second, whatever you need. That's how I look at this deck, is it essentially has a 3-card combo, but your 3 cards, 2 of your 3 cards are malleable.
All right. Now, that's a good way to put it. So, to close out, we'll go over this Harpy deck that I've kind of seen around a little bit. If you guys remember, Wayne Knopf also got, I believe, top 8 in a battle phase with a deck similar to this. So, just briefly explain the interaction with Harpy's Hunting Ground and Harpy Dancer.
Right, so Harpy's Hunting Ground version of this deck plays similar like all the others. The 3-card combo is still there, but now the 3-card combo essentially becomes replaced. The back row removal is now the fact that you have a Harpy's Hunting Ground field spell that will remove a back row as long as you summon a Harpy monster.
Yeah.
In this case, we're using, I believe that's Dancer.
Yeah, Harpy Dancer with the Swallow's Nest.
Correct. The Swallow Nest is what I consider the card that you can have. If you don't have the Swallow's Nest, you're going to run into a situation where you're either going to have back row removal, but you won't be able to start your engine,
Yeah.
or you're going to run into a situation where you can start your engine, but you don't have any back row removal. So that's why I find this deck, as many people like to play it, I do find this deck to be a little less consistent in that aspect, because now you're solely relying on 2 cards, which is the Harpy, or the Swallow's Nest, and the Harpy Dancer, to not only get rid of a back row, but also swap out, because the Harpy Dancer effect, if you look at it real quick, which I can't even read it, is that it essentially, if she can tag out for another winged beast monster of the same level. So you would
Tag out for
her
Sinatus.
for a Sinatus, correct. But the only, like, let's say you open a Dancer, a Nest, and a Hate True Name. You don't have a win condition.
Yeah, you don't. You just have a bunch of odds and ends.
Yeah, you can get rid of a back row by summoning the Harpy Dancer. You can tag her out for the Sinatus. The Sinatus doesn't have fuel to search for the tuner. So you're running into a situation where that doesn't have a combo where you can run it.
Alright.
You're running 3 and 3, so you're going to open probably a Dancer and probably a Nest. The only downside is if, let's say you open a Sinatus, a Nest, a Harpy Dancer, and a Hatred, you have a win condition with that. Because the Harpy Dancer will summon, but again, you only have the Harpy's Hunting Ground is what actually helps you get the back row movement. You summon your Dancer, you get rid of the back row. You activate your nest, you tag out your Dancer, you bring in a Senatus. You have Senatus in the hand. You mill the Senatus, you can start your engine. Same thing with, let's say you have a Koss in the hand. If you open up with Koss or Ducks instead of a Hatronade, or, well, even, yeah, that's pretty much it. The only situation where you will not end up winning, though, or having the ability to start your engine, is if you open more than one Harpy Dancer with the nest, a Hatronade. You can't start your engine.
Okay. Alright, so thank you for breaking down those deck lists. So, to close this out, what do you think is this deck's greatest strength and its greatest weakness, just in a couple sentences for each, if you had to say?
Sure. The greatest strengths for this deck is that it does have OTK capabilities. It can one-turn kill. It does have a combo, more than one combo, that you could draw into the 4 cards that you need, in 3 actually, because you only need 3, but a variation of those cards, and instantly have a one-turn kill situation.
Right.
The downside to this deck is its back row. If you cannot deal with the Floodgates, the Canadias, the Molecules, if you cannot stop them from preventing you from starting your combo, you instantly run into a situation where you're hoping they don't have a kill for next turn, and you can recover, because this deck does have recover capabilities. But your recover capabilities usually are stronger when you're able to get Ascalon out on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the pros. Is it's an OTK deck. Your matches are going to be 2 or 3 minutes long. If you're looking into running a deck into the and KC Grand Tournament,
oh yeah, Dragunity is
format for
perfect.
stage 2 is the ladder stage.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to be able to play in a situation where your matches aren't too long to maximize your time, because the more matches you get into, the more matches you can win. This deck for me averaged just not the first deck version that we talked about. That version of the deck averaged me a 60% win rate in the last KC Cup. Got me top 100 NA and top, I believe it was top 1,000, 5,000, I can't remember. Top something global, but it was top 100 North America.
Yeah, there you go. The deck, it works in the KC Cup formats. There's the results from Nightfox. So thank you guys for coming out to this Dragunity analysis video. And we'll be hitting you up later in the week with some gameplay of the deck. I really like this deck, and I want to learn about it some more from Nightfox. So we'll see you guys there. In the meantime, just subscribe, like the video, catch us on Twitch for the live tournaments. Battle Phase Monday and Friday. Peace out, guys. See you there.